he's obviously somebody I really enjoy working for and love this, the university here and the program, the culture, the community. And so, when I was approached about that a few weeks ago, I was, very excited about, the security involved in that and just the commitment, and more than anything, the commitment on both sides to say this is where I want to be and this is where they want me to be, and to help build this program on a consistent basis and a yearly basis. And so that was important to me.
The last couple of weeks, obviously, things are not going as well as you would like. How much of that is the teams you're playing? How much of that is things you're maybe not doing quite as well as you'd like to be doing?
Yeah, I think we talked at length about that yesterday with our players, and about, I think we're at a point where I think we have enough talent. I think we have enough grit and toughness that, when we do things the way we're capable of doing, we can move the ball and score points on whoever we play. And but when we don't, the margin of error is pretty slim. And when I don't put them in a good position at times with play calls, and we don't execute the way they were capable of, then I think then you see the results of punting and being 3 and out and those types of things. So there's a real fine line there, and our effort and our intentionality to move the ball was there the whole game the other day. But there were certain series where it was much better than others, and we made plays in some series, and some we didn't. And so I think it's a combination of those things. I mean, obviously you got good coaches you're going against with good players, that they're going to rise up and make plays and stop you. But we've contributed that as well as on our behalf of not doing the things we're capable of doing.
Is there more beginning of the year? Obviously, you got a great advantage because you know what you're going to be doing,
yeah,
and nobody else has any clue.
Right.
Is that kind of lessened quite a bit? Does that lessen over time your experience? What you were able to do because it's kind of a surprise or whatever.
Yeah, I think early during the year there was probably an element of surprise, and that's kind of gone away. Okay. So on the flip side of that, though, also there was an element of surprise for us too. Like, we weren't really sure what we were going to see because we didn't know what people were preparing for us. And so as the season's gone on, I think there's on both ends of the spectrum of, they may understand a little bit better about what we're trying to accomplish, but we certainly go into the game and understand what the defense is trying to accomplish. And so I think that kind of neutralizes that.
I know you always want to get better. What's the level of satisfaction where you guys are at this point? And
Well, I'm pleased with the effort and the, which is just kind of the baseline standard, to play in this program is you're going to play hard, and you're not going to be on the field if you don't play hard. But we play hard, and our guys give a care. Their give a care meter's really strong. I mean, they compete, they do what we ask them. So I'm really pleased with all those things, the way that they take coaching and they try to apply it. Our job is to score one more point than the other team. And so any amount of being pleased or, happy with the way we've moved the ball at times and had some success is very minimal compared to the disappointment that we've not done our job on our end to score enough points to help us win the last 3 weeks. Now, you don't throw, the proverbial, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, in that regard. We don't want to sweep under the rug the good things that have shown up. And certainly Saturday, there was a lot of good things that happened during the course of the game against a really quality opponent. We just got to do it more consistently.
I'd say the last offensive possession, but the one that ultimately led to their field goal. How do you balance? I'm assuming you wanted them to use timeouts, you wanted to take as much of the clock versus maybe putting it in the air and picking up a couple that way. What was kind of the thought process?
Well, I think the primary thought process was to get the first down, no matter, what it took from that standpoint. And that point during the game, I think that you want Chase Brown to have a chance to impact the game. And we had run the ball fairly successfully during the course of the game, and so it was a little bit of a blend. And Coach and I talked at length about it during the transition time, and had a plan we knew we were going to need to throw the ball in at least one of those downs probably if we didn't get it, and we had a plan to throw it on third down to get it to third and manageable, and to use one of the passes we believed in. And ultimately we had a chance to end the game, with 2 first downs there, and then get the first one started. And to be honest with you, the penalty was a really tough one because of the yardage that was lost, in the field position game. And And so, yeah, the thought process there is always about what you can do the best for the team, and the best thing for the team is to get the first down within reason. You certainly didn't want to chunk the ball 3 times and have 3 incompletions in a row. And so, hindsight's 20/20. I don't say that lightly, but, you always look back through those situations and say, what could we have done differently? And in the moment and the way the game was unfolded, we felt like the best option early in that series was to give the ball to Chase. We just ended up coming up short on that.
Can you highlight what you got out of Chase on Saturday, maybe even not knowing when you woke up if he was going to be 100%?
Yeah, I think I was pretty confident that he was going to be close, that he was going to be 100%. I think he knows himself well enough to know that position you can't play hobbled. And there's some positions you can get in there and mix it up. And, like Tommy, his ankle's not been healthy at times and he's played. You can get away with that, but at that position you can't. So I was pretty confident that he was fully ready to protect himself and play well. And I wasn't surprised at all to see him compete the way he did. I don't think any of us were that's followed him and the way he's played this year. And at times our line really did a nice job of covering him up and moving them. And so obviously the way he ran the ball was I don't know if it was expected, we all come to a certain level of expectation with him, but it was certainly appreciated and the way he battled through the week to get ready to play.
We only have him for a couple more games. Just how much, if you appreciated what he's been able to do year with him?
Yeah, well, I mean, and I told him this in the game the other day, at the end of the game, and just how appreciative we all are, and I am in particular as the leader of the offense, of his consistency. It's always a great joy as a coach when your better players or your best player or whatever, like when you're guys that are your dudes, and obviously the way Chase has played, it's always a joy when not only are they your better players, but they're your best people too. And he's a phenomenal young man and leader. And I'm not saying he's any better person than any guys that we have on our offense, but the fact that he does what he does and carries himself the way he carries himself on a daily basis just speaks volumes about the type of person he is. And but he's meant obviously an awful lot to our football team. And to have somebody consistently break tackles and run and be gritty and protect the quarterback and do anything he can do to help us win the game.
How would you describe Casey Washington? It just seems like he catches anything that's targeted around him.
Yeah, I think Casey is. I think the arrow's up there with him for sure. I felt that the last few weeks. I think he's really. I think he's really turned the corner. Not necessarily as a player, but I think just as maybe having a complete understanding and comfort level with what we're doing offensively. I know he's worked really hard at that, and George has spent a lot of extra time with him, and not that it requires extra time, but he's really coming into his own. That's happened in practice. I really thought last week would be an opportunity for him to break out a little bit, and he did make a couple plays in the game against Purdue, but really felt strongly, obviously with Pat being out last week, that Casey was thrust into a starting role, and we view him as that type of player anyway. But he's strong and powerful, and he's tough, and he's competitive, and those are all really good traits in a wide receiver. And we need more from him. We need another day like he had the other day, and I think that's something that hopefully these 2 games that we guaranteed 2 games we have left, that he can produce in a similar fashion.
Your thoughts on the line? It seems like that was as good as we've seen them over the last 2 weeks. Is that fair? Do you think?
Yeah, I thought they really rose to the occasion, played well. I think they were confident going into the week, and did and protected us. Protected the quarterback. I thought extremely well, and from a start to finish type performance, I thought it was a very good one. There were some things to clean up. Obviously, we had a couple hiccups with even the crowd noise that was extreme at the end of the game that was unfortunate, but I just thought overall, as a group collectively, they seemed to be in unison, and they seem to really cover the guys up. The big strong dudes from Michigan, it doesn't mean you're going to displace them and knock them 5 yards off the ball, but man, we were covering them and playing with good strain and allowed us to have some good run lanes.
We always talk about Chase Browning taking the pounding. Your quarterback's been probably played as much for this year as in a long time. You're worried about him that way, taking him physical. pounding, although I guess he was pretty clean Saturday.
Yeah, he was pretty clean Saturday, and there's going to be a few times. You know, we don't try to put the ball in his hands a lot from a running game standpoint. It happens. You know, inevitably it's going to happen a game or two, a play or two a game, and he's done a really good job when that's presented itself. Shoot, his effort on that third down play the other day was, I went back and watched the film again. I mean, he almost got the first down, even though it had been called back. But just the competitive nature that he has, he doesn't back down from anybody or anything in that regard. And so we've been, you know, fortunate for the most part, for him to stay healthy. And our line is, and our backs, our backs did a nice job protecting him, that is our tight ends did. It takes a whole collective effort to protect a quarterback, receivers running the right route on time, and, you know, all that. We've done a nice job in that regard. It's important we keep him clean on Saturday.
When the news came about Coach V's mom on Thursday and he wasn't there, I'm just curious, how does that kind of a practice go when he's not there? And is, for just one day, is it noticeable, or did you guys get a good Thursday amount of work?
Well, yeah, we got a good Thursday in. I mean, I think even to Coach's point, Thursday's probably the one day that's probably kind of self-regulated a little bit to some degree. I mean, like we have a very set routine on what Thursdays look like for us and our football team, and our guys through 10 weeks knew what that to be expected, or what was to be expected. I think it was a very somber practice because we knew that our leader and our coach was hurting and going through a difficult time, and our players had a little bit of time to digest that on Thursday morning before we went out to the field. But I think everybody knew, you know, had a heavy heart as we practiced. But practice did go as kind of normal because of the way that that's set, and it was kind of a normal routine for us. And the clock kind of manages the practice for us on Thursdays. And so even though Coach wasn't out there, I thought we had a really good practice, a really focused practice, but nonetheless he was missed.
You're obviously working on Northwestern first and foremost, but you're going to have another game.
Yep.
Do you look forward to maybe having a chance to kind of tweak some things between end of the season and bowl game?
Yeah, that always gives you a little bit of time, you know, mixed in with recruiting, to pause and figure out, like, is there some things, you know, that you can do that's unique for the bowl game. A lot of it depends on who you play, you know, what they present. But, you know, I think that's always a time you see in bowl time. You always see new wrinkles, you know, whether it's, you know, not necessarily for fun, but just for, you know, changing things up. And you have a month to prepare and plan, so you have more time to be creative. And so, yeah, there'll be inevitably some things that pop up like that, I would believe, in a bowl game. They always have been, every game I've ever been a part of in a bowl game that's showed up. But obviously our focus is on Saturday, playing you know, you turn the film on at Northwestern and, you know, you watch them play against Purdue on Saturday, and it's really impressive. I mean, you certainly wouldn't have had any indication of what their current record is, you know, based on the way that they play the game and the way they're coached and the way they compete. We'll have our hands full Saturday, and our guys will be ready to bounce back.
He's talked about that conversation you had with Brett, like during that transition period. And you've worked with him before, obviously a different title for you, and it's been documented his change since the time. What are those conversations like as you approach that? Not maybe that drive specifically, just those scenarios going into that final drive you had. Like, what are those conversations like?
You talking about on game day?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have a lot of conversations on game day, you know, about 2-minute, 4-minute. We have a lot of those situations and those talks before the game ever comes about. It's one thing that I appreciate about Coach. He really does a great job with Ryan and I and Sean, the coordinators. You know, we meet with him pretty extensively before games to kind of make us think through those types of scenarios. And a lot of them end up unveiling a little differently just because of the way the flow of the game is going. But, you know, from a time management standpoint and those types, there was some very, very clear open communication, just like there was the whole game leading up to that point, and every other game that we played to this point during the season is like, hey, what are we thinking here? You know, like, okay, they're going to use their timeouts. Like, okay, we need to try to get a good run here. You know, those types of things. So it was probably more general in nature, you know, because he never gets involved, you know, from a standpoint. When I say never, I mean seldom does he get involved to say, hey, I want to run here or a pass here. I mean, he leaves those up to my judgment and, you know, my studying and my planning. But obviously, as always, has recommendations and things to think about, and does a great job helping me think through those things. And so I greatly appreciate his leadership in that regard, because I think he really makes our football team better the way he goes about doing those.
Thanks, guys.
All right, appreciate it. Good to see everybody.